Welcome to Script Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, being the poetry discussion playlist, a playlist that is growing ever faster, and I'm kind of proud of that. But number two, being the Charles Bukowski poetry discussion playlist. I almost said Robert Frost for some reason. Very different poets, but that playlist, I believe, is nearing 75 videos strong, and hopefully by the end of this calendar year, I am hoping to get it to 100 poems. 100 poems from Robert Bukowski, but this poetry discussion is on Young in New Orleans, and the poem reads as such. Starving there, sitting around the bars, and at night walking the streets for hours, the moonlight always seemed fake to me. Maybe it was. And in the French Quarter, I watched the horses and buggies going by, everybody sitting high in the open carriages, the black driver, and, in back, the man and woman, usually young, always white. And I was always white, and hardly charmed by the world. New Orleans was a place to hide. I could piss away my life unmolested except for the rats. The rats in my small dark room very much resented sharing it with me. They were large and fearless and stared me with eyes that spoke an unblinking death. Women were beyond me. They saw something depraved. There was one waitress, a little older than I. She rather smiled, lingered when she brought my coffee. That was plenty for me. That was enough. There was something about that city, though. It didn't let me feel guilty, that I had no feeling for the things so many others needed. It let me alone. Sitting up in my bed, the lights out, hearing the outside sounds, lifting my cheap bottle of wine, letting the warmth of the grape enter me. As I heard the rats moving about the room, I preferred them to humans. Being lost, being crazy maybe, is not so bad if you can be that way, undisturbed. New Orleans gave me that. Nobody ever called my name. No telephone, no car, no job, no anything. Me and the rats and my youth. One time, that time, I knew even through the nothingness, it was a celebration of something not to do, but only no. This poem is an individual finding a place where they can grow more authentically them. Bukowski's not from New Orleans. Bukowski, I believe, was born in Andernach and Andernach, Germany, moved to California as a child, or he was born in California and his parents came from Andernach. Either way, not native to New Orleans. What this means is he was, in this place, a transplant. Now, it's amazing. It truly is amazing what moving to a new city can do for you, can do to you, can allow you to do to and for yourself. Do you have this place? A place like Bukowski's New Orleans? For me, it's St. Joseph, Missouri. When I graduated high school, I didn't just go straight into the workforce. I had been in the workforce. I expanded my role ever so slightly at the place where I was working. I was working my senior year, I believe, something like 32 hours a week. I was working 12-hour Saturdays and 9-hour Sundays, I think. Or maybe it was 12 and 10. I can't remember. But it was all the hours available on the weekends. And then I would pick up 2 or 3 shifts during the week. All I really wanted was the chance to go to college. Upon graduating, that opportunity was not particularly there. I had to go to community college. Open admissions, you just walk in, sign up for classes, etc. Years. About 5 years. I was just. So immediately upon graduating high school, I went into overnights because they paid more. It offered an opportunity to make more money, set your schedule, um, maybe move up. Like it was sort of shady the way it worked in that regard at the time, but basically they were telling you anything they could tell you to get you to take an overnight position because they're very, very difficult to fulfill. So 5 years. No, I didn't work overnights for 5 years. I worked overnights for, I believe, 6 months, and it murdered me. 5 years. I was just working multiple jobs, paying my rent, buying my food, putting myself through community college. Now, you'll notice there, community college is a 2-year degree. It took me 5 years, right? The world has a way of beating you down. This is true. When I had finally crafted in my life the opportunity, a meager opportunity, but an opportunity nonetheless, to go off to college, it was just 50 miles up the road. 50 miles up the road can be a world of difference. Most people, I believe, if I have the stat correct, most people never live more than 30 miles from the place they're born. Something like that. It's far enough away. And I decided then, moving to this new place, I could be a different person. I could move to this new place where no one knew me, be a bit of a different person, take different responsibilities for myself instead of just trying to get by, instead of working as much as I could, which is what I was doing. I could be a little bit different. I could give myself the opportunity not just to learn, but also to become more artistic, to actually take some time to write. In that place, in St. Joseph, Missouri, I was able to grow more authentically into who it is that I have become, that I wanted to be, but it was not just falling into the not simply falling into the role that the world had necessarily let me have. I created that role. I took that spot. And I think that's what we have for Bukowski in this poem. Here we have Bukowski out of his normal place, wherever that normal place had been. It was not New Orleans. New Orleans being a bit of a looser city than wherever it is that Bukowski is hailing from at this time. New Orleans being something more lax on. So we have it several times in the poem where he says something to the effect of, "It would leave me undisturbed." We have, where is it? He's talking about women being a vice for Bukowski or Chinaski. Quite often, she would linger, and that was plenty for me. That was enough. These things. Here we have the individual crafting a role for himself, which is more on purpose, more deliberate, perhaps, than the role he had been handed in society, than the role he had taken before this time in his life. And I think that's important, and I think it's incredible the way that works. It is incredible the way that changing settings can help someone change the self. Now, there will always be a through line to whoever it is that you are. There will always be an underlying you there. And it's easy to say, to look at something like this and ask the question, look, if you are being deliberate in the difference that you are personifying, for example, if that is deliberate, if that takes thought, is it not authentic? Well, I think that's a bit misled. I am more authentically the person I am now than I had been before I moved off to St. Joseph, Missouri, and found who it was that I wanted to be, even if it takes effort. Taking effort does not extinguish authenticity. Sometimes that effortful pace, that effortful place, is exactly who the individual really is. It's easy in life to simply believe that whatever doesn't take the effort is more authentic from us. I think that's misled. I think that every organism, humans roughly being organisms, has a baseline being survival, baseline being all that it takes to be able to wake up the next day. And oftentimes we get lost in this grind of simply doing what it takes to get by, what it takes that will allow us to wake up the next morning with shelter and food, and we assume that's who we are, that's all we are. And to some extent, that's what Bukowski is making the case for in this poem. He just wants to be left alone. He doesn't mind that he's sharing his place with rats. That's fine with him. But I think that is the baser appeal of this. Sometimes we have to realize what it is that we are doing does not define us. Because we can all lose this part of us, at least from time to time, that makes us who we are. Is it not authentic to be a writer? Is it not authentic to be a painter? Is it not authentic to be a musician? All of these things, I'm just using artistic examples, all of these things take craft. All of these things take discipline to learn. That would remove the authenticity. But the person that we authentically are involves deliberate discipline regardless. Otherwise, the person we really are is simply the thing that wakes up and eats food and needs shelter. And that's not true. That's not what a human being is. Take it away from the artistic realm. Maybe you define yourself by the work that you put forth. Maybe you define yourself as an entrepreneur. Maybe you define yourself as a hard worker. Maybe you define yourself as someone who goes through the grind. That involves effort. That involves effort. That is not a base setting on the human mechanism. Maybe you define yourself as a mother. Maybe you define yourself as a father. Those things, too, require great effort to execute. Otherwise, it's just an empty definition. That's why we have definitions. Look something up. Look up an occupation. Look up a definition that someone might set for themselves, and it will be in terms of verbs. Doing something. What is an artist? One who makes art. What is a mother? Someone who does the mothering. And it's wild. It really is wild how setting can greatly impact this. especially when it's that second setting of your life. I'm here in Kansas City. In large part, the society, the world around you can help define and mold who it is that you are. And sometimes that's for the good, and sometimes that's for the bad. And always there is some blend of those things. There is no place in the world that would be 100% great for the person all the time. And changing that setting around us allows the individual underlying some deeper understanding of the self. That is all I have for this video. Another in the poetry discussion playlist, another in the Charles Bukowski poetry discussion playlist. If you enjoy or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out on the channel, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more, because there is poetry every Monday. I do short story read-alongs. We're going through the Fincavigia edition from Ernest Hemingway right now, short story by short story. We're making our way through Dubliners right now, short story by short story, and we're going through Sylvia Plath, short story by short story, or poem by poem, pardon me. But also No Longer Human, if I can ever get off my lazy butt, my lazy New Orleans butt, and make that fourth or fifth video in the series, changing the way that I'm doing the videos. And it takes a whole lot of work, and trying to hold up the rest of the channel, go to work, trying to walk 200 miles a month, all of this stuff, really, it's more difficult than it looks. But anyway, hit the subscribe button because I'd like to have you back for the next one.